All right, I think we're live. This is this is Mike V coming in. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust Economics episode 254. Please click the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. There's a document in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. Just as an FYI, we are not certified financial planners, so if you want a certified financial planner, please go to cfp.net and look up one in your area. We do not give out financial advice. Super Triz, what's going on? Complex Design, what's going on, fam? Isaac of Olympia, welcome. I think that's all we have for right now. Um, yeah, the hangout was originally scheduled for 8 o'clock, but it should have been 8:30 due to the other priorities that come before the hangout, such as getting the docket together and handling other few household items. If you all have not checked out Lionel's crypto talk from last night on Thursday, in your spare time, you should actually listen to it. It's actually pretty good. Covered a gamut of things in terms of Facebook Libra coin. So if you've been under a rock the last 72 hours, it probably would be in your best interest to go over there and check that out. Yo, what's going on, Salchi? Double A, what's up, fam? Raining Woman, good evening to you. Terrence Forrest, what's going on? Deep Technologies, what's going on? Yeah, we're having a heat wave here in Boston, New York. So it's been a bit of a challenge. The air quality is pretty bad here. So Christopher Clipper, what's going on, fam? Yeah, I hear you, Salchi. I hear you, man. We'll get started in another 45 seconds. Yeah, it's supposed to be 100 up in 103 in Boston tomorrow, man. It's going to be a lot of violence out there. I can tell you that much. Somebody got to get popped. No, I'm just joking. But today they had the fire hydrants on, man. I had to roll up my windows and put my sunroof back down. Couldn't get through the streets without getting wet, man. So all right, let's get started. All right, so first item on the docket is from theinformation.com. Inside Apple factory thefts, secret tunnels, hidden crawl spaces. This is going to be interesting. 6 years ago, a warehouse employee at one of Apple's top suppliers, Jabil, stole thousands of iPhone 5C casings from a factory in China before the product was announced. The employee, with the help from a security guard, falsified documents and avoided security cameras as he drove a truck filled with the candy colored shells out of the gates, according to three people familiar with the matter. The incident, which hasn't been previously reported, was one of the most devastating leaks to come out of Apple's supply chain. Apple supply chain, the people said. Images of the iPhone 5C soon appeared on the internet, spoiling the reveal at the company's carefully choreographed media event that September. Let me see if I can get past this paywall. I'm just waiting for this to load up again. This is taking some time for whatever reason. Yeah, so this is behind the paywall, but the point of the matter here is this: Apple had a lot of vulnerabilities, social engineering happening inside their organization, and because of that, what that has done is it made them uh, vulnerable to a lot of leaks that were unnecessary for the organization come press time. And it hasn't really impacted Apple's bottom line, but what it has shown is that Apple is vulnerable to espionage and other forms of social engineering inside their organization. We reported on this some months ago, just this year though, some months ago that there were several Apple employees who were caught going to Beijing with documents, non-disclosed agreement, NDA-based documents that had what it had to do with the autonomous vehicle that they were working on. Sorry, and their autonomous vehicle staff was pretty much all compromised. So that was a nation state maneuver. But then what you're seeing here from these iPhone casings and iPads and things like that. Um, this is bigger than what most organizations see. So now what's happening here is the companies can't get their product off the ground because, well, not that they can't get their product off the ground, they get their product off the ground, but then it's already been duplicated for the most part. So the profits are going to be lost at the store level, at the retail level. So Apple is going through its woes, but that comes with the territory when you're a market leader. Hey, what's going on, Dollar?
What's happening, bro? What's happening?
Chilling, man, chilling.
Not to be pejorative here, but does that kind of come with China? Was this warehouse in China? I'm coming in
Yeah.
late on the story. I mean, does that kind of just come with China? Is that like just what you have to factor in when you're successful and your products are manufactured there?
Not necessarily. Well, not necessarily. Third world, developing world, they're always going to be opportunists. Let's not forget that Steve Jobs walked into Xerox Palo Alto Research Center Park and took the blueprints of the mouse-based computer that Xerox had that they did not patent foolishly, and then they came out, and then Steve Jobs took it and ripped it off and created the Apple computer. So, and he's basically revamped the same thing for almost 10 years. So Steve Jobs did it. It's happening to him. It happens to most organizations, most car manufacturers that send their products to the Middle East or China or even any part of Asia. It gets duplicated pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm gonna defend Steve Jobs in this respect. It's not stealing if it's not patented.
It is stealing if it doesn't belong to you.
It doesn't belong to you if it's not patented.
Actually, it does belong to them if it's in their research center. So that's how he's seen it, right? So he walked in there, he saw it, he copied it down, and then he went back and reproduced it. That's stealing. He wouldn't have been able to do it had he not walked into that research center, and that's what changed the tech industry from a patent perspective. Everybody, ever since that happened, every company patents everything that they have, even if it's not going into production, they just patent it. Before that was never the case.
Yeah,
so
that's real business now. That's how business works. I mean, right. Even before they just were not, Anyway, I get your point.
Right.
But in the legal answer, then there's the lay answer, and in court, if it's not patented, or in law, if it's not yours, if you haven't secured it legally. Anyway, but so you're saying the reason why I asked that question about China is like, no, who else has the reputation for pirating or creating knockoffs on par with China? So when you say China and or knocking off or stealing somebody's property, that just kind of goes together to me. But maybe.
Well, in China, there is no intellectual property laws. So whatever you produce there, it belongs to the government too. So if Apple produces the phone there, then guess what? That product gets knocked off there too.
Right. Well, I guess that's something Apple will have to factor into the cost of continuing to do business there, and that's an opportunity for another country that can have tighter controls on that type of thing to compete.
Right. So when somebody comes out and says, China's stealing our intellectual property, that's what they're talking about. What I will say to this is that stealing intellectual property is nothing new. Black people coming out of slavery knew this. Many of their patents and intellectual property has been stolen by the oppressor. So this isn't so much of a poor people's perspective, but it's more along the lines of opportunity, time and opportunity. So, what's going on, Gabe? You have anything you want to add to this?
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was just kind of reviewing that particular article. If you could give me just a sentence of like the overview, because I think I got it, but just what that one is about, because I'm coming in late. My bad.
Well, yeah, Apple has had issues over the last few product cycles of theft in their factories. So crawl spaces, all types of people filling up their backpacks with things, products that have not been released yet, and walking off with it, and then they get on social media and they take a picture of it, and then they sell it to these publishing agencies and whatnot, and they they pay top dollar for that stuff. So
I was gonna say that sounds like something that's pretty expensive, probably. Yeah.
Well,
I guess I don't have too much to say about it, but yeah.
Yeah, just an iPhone case, is worth a lot of money on the journalist market, right?
Right.
Especially if you can come out and say we had it first, right? we got spy shots of this, we got spy shots of that. It happens in the auto industry too, right? So
yeah,
that's why they put the camouflage on the car so that you can't take a picture of it, because the camera loses focus based on the swirl marks and stuff on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, grew up around that a lot. Like we thought they were military vehicles when we were younger, but after I started working in the, because I worked in the factories or at least I would follow my wire harness through the factories. But yeah, they would always do testing of the vehicles and put the, I wouldn't say it's like a reflective, but it does cause, gives you the inability to get a clear picture of the vehicle. So yeah, yeah, intellectual property is big. China takes a lot of like the intellectual property of the tech companies here. A lot. Like they'll just completely, I think I was listening to a podcast not too long ago speaking about how someone visited the Hungwei. I, I think that's how you say the company's name. They're like the big
Huawei?
telecom. Yeah. Yeah, them. Huawei, like big telecom company. And they were right because initially, like this year they had that issue with their ability to do business in the US. They got sanctions because of some shady dealings with the company being linked to the government of the and that their products had some particular malicious malware within it. So there were a journalist that were invited to kind of give the you to over there to China to give a tour of the facilities, to give a tour of the buildings, to give a tour of their stores. And they said that they walked into a Huawei, however you say it.
Huawei,
I don't have that in my Huawei. They
yeah.
went into the store and they said it looked just like an Apple store, and they questioned the employees, and they were saying, "Oh no, this is all ours. Like we made this." So yeah, intellectual property is definitely big, even on the international scale.
See, on that level, copying a retail store is not, to me, that's not intellectual property theft. That's because when I used to, well, I'm not gonna say where I used to work. They copied the Genius Bar too, right? It
Yeah,
could help desk, right? Everybody does that now. They have the same exact setup as a Genius Bar in most organizations
yeah,
now. Even Capital One, if you look at their new store layouts, it looks like an
yeah.
Apple store. So I mean, we can't really use that. But Huawei, for those of you
Yeah.
listening and don't understand what we're talking about, Huawei ripped off Nortel, which is a North American company,
Hmm.
telephone company involved in telecommunications. They copied all of their intellectual property and produced um, a product for a fraction of the cost and put these guys
Hmm.
out of business. And they then copied Cisco routers and switches to create their own networking company,
Networking,
through
yeah.
Huawei, right? So
And they're huge. Like they just have money to throw at so it becomes an issue. Like not only like it becomes an economic issue because you're literally putting businesses
companies
out
out
of
of
production because you are literally taking them and you're bigger than them. So
right, right. So
yeah.
they took the intellectual property, they copied all the blueprints to the routers and switches of Cisco, even
Hmm.
down to the bug level. So if there was a bug in a Cisco router and switch in the iOS, they also copied that down too, and they
Hmm.
reproduced it and created a company called Huawei. 3Com, which is an American company, um, actually tried to acquire or formed a partnership with Huawei called H3C. That was the
Hmm.
limited name moniker for the company. In order to get their products into North America, they
Yeah.
needed a bigger partner, which was HP, which HP bought H3C, the rights to H3C, and brought it to America, and which is how Huawei got into America.
Mm.
So, for those of you listening, this is how international business works. Um, I know we look at China and say, well, the Chinese steal all the intellectual property. So what if they do? That's
Yeah.
their country. That they have their own laws that they govern by. If black people were just as smart as the Chinese were, then maybe we would probably steal some of this intellectual property and bring it back to Africa and create our own
Mm.
products and products and services. I don't see
Yeah,
anything
it
wrong.
was. Yeah, it was funny. I was listening to like an Intel, like a CIA Intel type of talk, and they were speaking of how like our international quote unquote right adversaries
Mm-hmm.
they play by different rules than we play by, right? we look at it from America and say, hey, you can't take that from them because that belongs to them. But on the international scale, they don't play by those same rules. They're like, oh, you put that out there? Oh, that looks good. Like we're gonna use that too. Or on some other type of levels as it concerns the different attacks that they use, right? As it concerns 9/11, right? Nobody, it a lot of times I think 9/11 was, well, a lot of people say it's an inside job, but certain intel organizations didn't really know that it was coming. And as a result, they were playing by different rules. They were trying to think ahead, but within the scope of how America conducts, I guess, their business. So, yeah, there's different rules internationally than there is from a nation perspective. They just think differently.
In order for China to be successful as it is today, they had to do it. That was the agreement that Nixon made, on his trip to China, that they would manufacture American goods and that the intellectual property that they would, transfer over would that they would use there would actually be transferred over to the government. So the Americans actually signed this off. It wasn't like China was, had some guy with a hoodie on his head in a laptop stealing. That was the agreement that they made in the 70s. So.
For sure.
All right, let me get to this next article. All right, this one is from investing.com. Small cryptocurrencies feel pain as criticism of Facebook's Libra grows. Bitcoin hasn't been the only casualty on the backlash by the world's major economic powers against Facebook's plans for a cryptocurrency, with small digital coins also feeling the burn. Bitcoin has slumped around 30% from 18-month highs of nearly $14,000 touched after Facebook's move, following a growing chorus of concern among regulators and politicians from the United States to Europe at the social media giant's plans. And the so-called altcoins have fared even worse. The second biggest coin, Ethereum, has slumped by nearly half. The third largest, Ripple's XRP, is down by around 40%, while Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash have slumped by 40% and 42% respectively. On Wednesday, G7 finance chiefs cast a cloud over prospects for Facebook's Libra digital coin, insisting tough regulatory problems would have to be worked out first. The Bank of Japan governor said a G7 task force looking at cryptocurrencies like Libra would likely grow to include a broader range of regulators beyond the bloc. Facebook faced in the U.S. more questioning by lawmakers after a bruising first bout on Tuesday, when senators from both parties condemned the project. Where Bitcoin goes, altcoins tend to follow. Price moves for smaller coins have been closely correlated with their bigger cousin through crypto's first decade, even as altcoins seek to gain prominence among investors in real-world usage. After Facebook unveiled its Libra cryptocurrency, Bitcoin soared as much as 55% in just 9 days as investors bet the social media giant's gambit would herald mass adoption of cryptocurrencies. The top four altcoins also soared, climbing between 10% and 33%. When things are going up, Bitcoin tends to outperform, and when crypto goes down, the altcoins tend to take larger losses, said Maddie Greenspan, an analyst at eToro. So there's a House committee that is in Washington that is going after Facebook. Elizabeth Warren talked about this some months ago about breaking up Facebook in the same way that Ma Bell was broken up in the 80s and 90s. And I, for one, think that there should be some form of oversight over companies like Facebook and Google. When they have too much flexibility to do whatever they want, that becomes a problem. Because now what happens to all the users? Because anything you upload to Facebook actually belongs to Facebook now. It doesn't. It no longer belongs to you. Your pictures and all your comments and things of that nature. Um, and what happens, with a company like Facebook that cannot even maintain personal identifiable information, decides that they want to deal with people's finances, and that becomes a bit of a red flag. Dollar, will you have anything you want to add to this?
On this story, I guess the government's got to get its act together and get some clarity on they need to make a distinction between their Facebook issues about the breaches of security and privacy at Facebook in particular, and the threat of a large cryptocurrency, which because the fact that it's Facebook and this large cryptocurrency, those are actually two separate issues. Because if they have a problem with the cryptocurrency being as large as this one could be, and the threat it poses to the dollar, which is what I think you argued that, I believe you did, and if that's driving their concern, that's not a Facebook issue, because that threat is going to be there, because it's just too many big powerful forces in the world. They're going to come together and create something that looks like a standard or a threat to a fiat currency. So these are like two issues that they really need to separate. So the Facebook security issue, that's a separate thing, and they need to deal with that. But they shouldn't let their opinion about Facebook determine their position about how big they want to allow a cryptocurrency to get. It's two different things.
When you say security, what are you talking about? What are you referring to?
I say in terms of Facebook not protecting data or selling data and all of the things that we talk about in terms of Facebook.
Yeah. Well, it correlates to them becoming a financial institution. So if you're losing people's personal identifiable information, you cannot ever pass regulatory standards anyways. So that has to be scrutinized if you're going to become a financial institution, which is what one of the politicians had said. You can't.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I'm not saying that Facebook shouldn't be scrutinized. If the government's position is that Facebook is not trustworthy with people's financial information, then that should not be a long debate. Either Facebook has committed substantive offenses where they can make that conclusion, or they can't. So either you got the proof, and you want to come down with a hammer. If you got it and you're ready to make that judgment, just make that judgment. Now, but then, like what I'm saying is, you have other. I believe, just as you pointed out, there's also a concern that just the size of Facebook and the size of the coin is a problem. I mean, Microsoft had these issues when they became a giant. People distrusted Microsoft just for size alone. So I just think the government has to get its argument and priority in order about what's the primary issue. Because if they believe that Facebook can't be trusted, they can make that conclusion right now, that they're just not a good steward of personal data of so many people, including what you said, the privacy, the property, the data would belong to them. I mean, so yeah, instead of you, if it's not your personal information, then, and if it's not your property, then you don't have as much of a claim on it. So that doesn't even make sense when we're talking about crucial information. So I mean, Facebook doesn't get to make the rules. So I mean, once so we already have rules on the books about personal information, privacy information with financial institutions. So the government just has to get clear on what its primary concerns are.
Well, I think it's interesting that you brought up Microsoft, because Microsoft actually provides a service that is necessary to all enterprises to function. Prior to that, you had Novell, and you could actually go to Novell as an alternative, but Novell is no longer around anymore. IBM is no longer around in those realms either. So the idea of breaking up Microsoft because of their size had more to do with the fact that companies were so dependent upon it. Whereas with Facebook, people are not really dependent upon it to that extent. You can not have Facebook and actually go to many of your local institutions and businesses and not really have to use Facebook to transact any sort of operations. But I get your point. Facebook has to be looked at, not just because of them losing people's PII, but the Cambridge Analytica scandal, the amount of influence they have over, certain social settings and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I think it even runs even deeper than just the PII that they've been irresponsible with. I mean, these organizations like Facebook and Google, like they do business with international entities, like international governments, right? There was, I think, was that Google who helped the Chinese government for
That's the big point right there. I was going to say that. That's the big point right there. That's it right there. No. Go ahead, man. Finish up. That's it right there.
I think that there's a deep-rooted distrust between these large tech organizations and the U.S. government because of some of the dealings. And I think that the PII information is just one piece of it. Yeah, go ahead and go.
No. You nailed it. That when you said, I was like, that's what I was going to say. This is about various governments and their control, and you're sitting here saying, it's hitting that point. I don't. There's really not much else to say. That's exactly how I'm looking at this. Just with some of these other scandals and stuff that's going on within Facebook, but yet the government is grabbing a lot of that information. A lot of others are playing it. Corporations are selling and moving a lot of this information around as well. But it's really a government type of type of a plan here. That's really what I see. And they definitely put Mark Zuckerberg feet to the fire some years ago and really tried to sit down and talk to him about Facebook and what was going on information. I think they intimidated this guy to literally be another kind of slight de facto arm of the government. That's really what I think Facebook is. I kind of hate to put it like that. I'm not trying to be paranoid or anything else like that, but that's just what I see. And
that's there's a movie called Born Supremacy. I think it was the very last one where they had Dreamscape or whatever the name of the company was, and they kind of cornered the guy in a restaurant and said, "You're going to do what we tell you to do." I guess basically this was the CIA telling them this. And saying, you're gonna do what we tell you to do, or else, And the guy was gonna blow the whistle, and he almost got assassinated over it. I guess he was supposed to be Mark Zuckerberg. So the point that I'm making here is that those pictures that get uploaded to Facebook also get transferred to national security, which then is used for identifying people on the street through artificial intelligence. So when they, Chinese obviously do this now, but we're becoming more communist, and China is becoming more unlike us.
And look how law enforcement goes through Facebook like crazy. To see who's who and what's what, and see what people uploading and catching criminals or whatever. This is how they feel, but this is something that they do constantly. So I think it's another de facto arm of the government, man. I think, Gabe, you did on it. That's exactly what I'm thinking, and I don't know. I'm not happy about it, but
I was thinking because I was thinking even with the government. It would make sense for the government not to really trust these technology organizations that are working with international governments but won't work with them, right? And the fact that social media and tech organizations have such a sway over the mentality and what is like a lot of young people or people in general, they don't watch the news anymore, or they don't read articles or read newspapers. They go straight to social media to get their primary source of news. So like it not only is that these entities are not working with the US government, but they also have a huge sway upon the minds and the feelings of the nation to pretty much, I mean, we've seen right with the Russian with the Russian involvement and utilizing social media, the Facebook platform, one in particular, in order to put up fake ads, right, to cause disruption during times of the election. We're kind of putting out fake information, swaying the minds and mentalities of individuals towards certain things. And this entity, this platform, is not working with the U.S. government. So I can understand distrust on both sides, but it's a mess. It's a mess.
Before there was social media, there was voter suppression in the South, and you had these political parties that were keeping black people from voting and showing up at voting booths and swaying votes and influence and things like that. So voter suppression.
You said they started it.
Say that again.
No, let's say so. You say that they started it. They made the blueprint for it. Voter disruption.
Right. What I'm saying here is that that's been going on long before there was social media. But the real backstory behind the Russia Gate issue is that these media organizations, social media organizations, approach RT, which is what they're talking about, RT, because RT is a Russian news agency, and they approached them with rock bottom prices for advertisements on social media. And what happened here was they took advantage of that. But the idea that Russians can advertise in social media space in the U.S. is what they're concerned about. But if you think about what the United States does over in Europe, they have Radio Free Europe. They have many other media organizations in Russia that deliver news to Russia from American standpoint that slanders Russia. You can also say the same thing about some of the what was I going to say about the NGOs? The NGOs do the same exact thing. If you look at the Pussy Riot, whatever their name is, the supposed pop star group in Russia, they were actually in a CIA operation.
Yeah, it's a mess overall.
And they got their asses beat as well.
Yeah, I
think came out there and waxed that ass in front of I'm trying to think of one of the venues that they were going into, or they were protesting against Pussy Riot. Got their ass beat. I mean, seriously, they got their ass beat. They were like, "This ain't America. We're gonna do to y'all." Beat them down. It was ill.
Go ahead, Dollar.
I think, historically, your major media organizations, oil industry, healthcare, your major industries have always been able to, pool their dollars and buy the proper influence and government to kind of keep certain things at bay. And, really, for me, the bottom line is Facebook got to spend more money. they gotta get their PAC game up. That's what it's probably going to take. All the other major industry sectors, they're spreading money around. So this section of the economy being the newest, especially the crypto space, and then before that, the whole IT space is not. It's not a traditional industry, new. So they just gotta spend a little more money.
All right. Let me get to this next article. This one is from CryptoBriefing.com. Tough crowd. Senators compare Facebook's Libra to arsonists and bond villains. Markets are down, and so are the spirits of many crypto and cryptocurrency investors. But no matter how bad your portfolio looks, it probably looks bruised, less bruised than David Marcus, Facebook's lead for the Libra cryptocurrency, after today's dressing down from the U.S. lawmakers. At a hearing of the Senate Banking Committee, the Calibra head was faced with a flurry of hostile questions from skeptical lawmakers who compared Libra and its creator to arsonists and movie villains before accusing the media giant of flagrant displays of bullshit. If you didn't have time to tune in, here's what you missed. The hearing opened with a cautious optimism. Senator Krappel, a Republican from Idaho, began by expressing his hope that Libra could bring material benefits such as expanding access to financial systems and providing cheaper and faster payments. But the hearing quickly went downhill while Marcus did his best to focus on the positives. Libra will be extensively reviewed, he promised, and fully compliant with regulatory bodies. He told us the technology's ability to give access to a safe, secure, low cost, and efficient way to move money around the world. Libra will also work with the Federal Reserve without interfering with monetary policy, Marcus explained. Calibra will offer just one of many competing wallets for spending, receiving, and saving the Libra currency, and will not share transactional data with Facebook. Privacy and personal data. We talked about this earlier. But Facebook does not have a great track record when it comes to privacy, as senators were quick to point out. Several pointed to the past data scandals and privacy violations, the most recent of which caused Facebook to settle for a fine of $5 billion. Asked if Facebook would seek consent for the use of a wallet of wallet data, Marcus replied that there is no intention to do so, emphasizing that the goal of facilitating transactions between small businesses and consumers. Evidently, this response did not satisfy the senators, who insistently demanded to know what user data protections would be in place. Senator Krappel raised regulatory concerns about the new asset, prodding Marcus to agree that America should lead the world when it comes to establishing rules. Marcus also assured the committee that Facebook and the Libra Association will be committed to following U.S. regulations. A difficult case to make, considering that the association will be based in Switzerland. Senator Toomey, one of the few members to recognize the tremendous potential advantages in blockchain technology, encouraged his colleagues to stay open-minded. We should explore this with a prudent approach, he said, warning other senators not to strangle this baby in the crib. In order to address concerns of competition and antitrust regulation, Marcus also told a competition that could emerge between different Libra wallets. While WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger would likely embed their own Libra wallets, he said other providers would also merge. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but we talked about the privacy concerns, data loss, data sharing, WhatsApp, having data leaks, sending your messages around. That's a big concern if you're talking about becoming a financial agency. We talked about this earlier. I know we don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's what everyone's looking at, your past track record. Now, if Facebook would have came out and then and it was not involved in the mining of people's data and social media, this probably would not be that big of a deal. But the track record that they have is very questionable, especially at the masses that they're talking about. Being 2 billion users on Facebook becomes very concerning.
And the thing about it too is that it's so crazy because we're such a capitalistic driven society that when we take capitalism to its logical end, it causes these bumps in, I guess, morality, right? because there's revenue that can be gained from selling that data from Facebook. Even telecom companies, I think T-Mobile was caught selling geolocation software and geolocation information to bounty hunter organizations within the US for a price, right? So these large organizations, they're revenue driven, and they're not they don't you, they don't really focus on this whole what is right and what's wrong a lot of times. They're like, we're just gonna go and make as much money as possible, and we're gonna let, it's like arms dealers, right? They're like, I want money for it. They're not really focusing on where the bullet is going, or where the weapon is being aimed. So it's just interesting that there's such a like going away from regulatory guidance or regulation or any type of government involvement, and it's like, yeah, we're just going to play by our own rules. And I think that's definitely where we are today. It's just like, yeah.
I just want to say something very quickly. I also thought kind of there's a political angle to some of this as well. You're talking about 2 billion users. That's a lot of people, right? Given a political situation anywhere around the world, and you could use Facebook as a launching point for some stuff. There are a lot of eyes on this. So I'm just saying it's not just dollars and cents. It is dollars and cents, but there are some strong social, political types of moves that can be made with this, and you have a lot of people who are trying to monetize it and so forth, and looking at this, but yet at the same time, they want to control this data because they also are going to want to control certain events, certain kind of news and stuff like that they may not want to get out in certain areas. It's going to come through Facebook. There's just a lot going on here. This is a medium that's actually grown a lot bigger, a lot broader. Anything beyond what really Mark Zuckerberg and him thought. This is
absolutely.
This is a different game. This is a different game out here right now. This can be utilized for a lot of different reasons, and you cannot forget the political and let's say social angle where that might have an effect on various political movements in various countries or any other place around the world, including here.
Because they will become one massive surveillance company. And they can squash political dissent.
Yes,
right.
As what you saw with the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring was social media was used to bring down several Arab governments in the Islamic world, and the United States knew about it, and they basically help those sort of operations. That's why Cuba is so concerned about Facebook and Google coming into their country, and Twitter. So they decided that they were going to build their own platform and monitor it. But the Chinese, Huawei is inside Cuba, and they're the ones who are going to provide that sort of technological assistance, and not Facebook and Google and Twitter. So because Trump decided he was going to suspend any formal relations with Cuba, what an idiot. But other countries are looking at this and they're saying, if Facebook wants to operate here, they have to share data of these people in our country. Even China is leveraging social media to find out who are the dissenting voices inside the West.
That's right.
So you saw that the famous rapper on YouTube, China Mac, was being targeted by the Chinese government for his lyrics against the Chinese government. Same thing with Jin. You see how quickly, he's
gone. He's like, you don't hear about him anymore. Like, you don't talk about nothing.
And we, in our famous Black Brain Trust contributor, Scholar Chang has even expressed this. So we know this, that this is happening, and for anybody thinking that Facebook has these great intentions, you're selling a pipe dream to people. This isn't about the bringing democracy, because this actually is going to take away less democracy as China becomes more scalable, vertically speaking, in terms of global markets and integration with the global markets. United States is becoming less and less vertical. They've actually become more constrained with their ideas of leveraging social media and other forms of media to monitor people. Like I think it was Nagone talked about them using it to catch people. I saw that on First 48.
Yeah.
First 48. Going into people's Facebook accounts and guys posting with guns, looking like the momos that they are,
Oh,
getting
man.
arrested just based off of that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's a fact. So I mean, the technology here, it's massive, and for us not to think about the social political angle to this, from social movements, revolutions, and these types of things that countries are going to try to keep their eyes on and suppress, and so on and so forth. You can best believe that's a big part of what's going on here with Facebook as well. That's a big part of it. 2 million users. That's 2 billion. Excuse me, 2 billion users. That's big. Those kind of numbers are going to get anyone's attention anywhere. That's close to a quarter of the world. I mean, that's
and even the fact that
big.
they're able to advertise themselves in a particular position that makes them look good, right? Because on their platform, Facebook can't look bad on Facebook. Twitter can't look bad on Twitter. Like, those individuals who are the leaders of these organizations are, by the masses, looked at as being in a favorable position. So it's not only that they have their own agendas, it's that really people have nothing, like they don't have a lot of backlash that comes against them for any type of mismoves. Like, people aren't, like, because of the data breach. I don't know the numbers, but I would have to assume that because of people, chiming in or still on Facebook, it didn't really affect them to the point where they're like, yeah, I can't trust this medium anymore. Some people, yes, but massively, no. People are still going to utilize Facebook for their own purposes, even though they know that their information has been proven to not be as secure as they thought.
Dollar Will?
Yes. The government has got to get its act together, get some clarity. They're trying to stay out of posturing as the legislative sheriff, but that's what governments do. That's why we pay the taxes. They're supposed to protect the people, and so in the posture that they're taking, you're letting the Facebooks create the policies, and the government sit and judge whether the policy is effective. I mean, that's inefficient. It would be better for the people and Facebook if the government took the lead, created the policy, and held the companies to it. And when that policy isn't robust enough, then the people get to blame the government and say, change the policy. But the government is taking this position where they're just sitting on their hands and judging whether whether these companies develop policies that protect the people. It's the government's job to protect the people. So I know we have a conservative strain in America that wants small government and less regulation. It's just not practical. Mm-hmm. It's in big things like this, because that profit motive. If we're talking healthcare or banking or major sectors of the economy, you can't really trust the business to come. It's not that the businesses are corporations are evil. The definition of a business within America is profit motive. You must have a profit motive. If you are a business, it is against the law for you not to have a profit motive. The only exception to that rule is nonprofit. If you're not a nonprofit organization, you must have a profit motive. So with that as the base, you can't then say expect a profit motive entities to protect the rights of the people. That's what the government is for.
Yeah,
that usually works in a democracy. I don't know if we're speaking from a Black brain trust perspective, I don't know if African Americans ever or ADOS have ever experienced democracy truly. All right, let me get to this next article. All right, this one is from Forbes.com. Bitcoin and crypto suddenly branded a national security issue. I'm not going to read this whole thing. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have been thrown into the limelight over the recent months by social media giant Facebook's plan to launch its own private cryptocurrency next year, with much of the attention negative. U.S. President Donald Trump sent shockwaves through the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency community last week when he branded Bitcoin based on thin air, with his comments coming just after the chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve that closer regulation of cryptocurrencies was needed. Now, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin has added his voice to the assault on Bitcoin, Facebook's planned Libra crypto project, and other cryptocurrencies, warning they pose a national security risk to the country. This is indeed a national security issue, Mnuchin told reporters at a press conference yesterday. Cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin have been exploited to support billions of dollars of illicit activity like cybercrime, tax evasion, extortion, ransomware, illicit drugs, and human trafficking, adding that Facebook's Libra could be misused by money launderers and terrorist financiers. Echoing Fed Chair Jerome Powell, Mnuchin said he is not comfortable with Facebook's plans for its private cryptocurrency Libra. Facebook, which has been struggling to pivot to a more privacy-based business model in light of its ongoing data sharing scandal, revealed plans for a global cryptocurrency last month and has recruited 28 partners, including the likes of Uber, PayPal, MasterCard, to help govern the Bitcoin rival, expected to be primarily aimed at serving developing countries when it launches. What a Freudian slip that was. 28 partners over this Facebook Libra coin. I spy a G20 style, tech circle coming up. All your big partners, or your big players, I should say. PayPal. Who are the other players here that would
Amazon?
Amazon. Not Microsoft. What's the other one? Lyft, Uber. These are all tech giants. So what you have, with the G20, with nation states that are supposed to be the 20 most vibrant states in terms of economies, what you have now is tech companies taking the lead on this as well, saying, we have the most leading technologies and emerging technologies in the fourth industrialized society, and we're going to have our own little powwow, and we're going to support each other, and we're going to go against, whatever the nation state, it is in the West, at least for this, all intents and purposes here.
Man.
We're gonna challenge the government.
I'm at a crossroads, and I don't think it's that difficult for me to come to a conclusion. But I don't trust. It's really government or big tech, right? I don't trust big tech. I don't trust the government, but I don't trust big tech more. I trust the government more than I trust big tech companies.
Besides, we're stuck with government.
Right. There's nothing we could do, right? That's boom. But these tech companies, I mean, oh man, they're just getting like they're forming their own monopoly of sorts in monopoly in thought, monopoly in control of information, monopoly in information that goes out to the public. I mean, it's and now currency. Ah, yeah,
The meshing of the tech companies and government are inevitable,
has
and that,
to.
and all this is also going to be part of the, and then it's going to, of course, it's going to, bleed into the military. So you're going to have that
Uh,
whole complex going. It's the meshing of this is going on right now. So I don't know why people are looking at this thing as being strange. This is exactly how this thing is going down.
Well, it's complex design. Oh, sorry.
I mean, all of this reeks of old money just trying to maintain
yeah,
its privileged spot. Okay,
Yeah,
So I mean, you got like as you guys talk about the Swift system and
definitely so.
traditional banking. So now we have technology, which is disruptive. It's changing the flow of who makes the profit. And
which
we
is
talked about
cool.
this a
Yeah,
year ago. When you talk about cryptocurrency, there's always going to be some kind of fee. And the bottom line is who is it that's taking the toll? Where did the buck stop? Who's connecting those the
wow.
yeah, the dollar, the scam, the vig or whatever, who's getting that. And cryptocurrency changed the order of where the buck stops. And for me, that's all this is. Okay, when enough old money positions itself to be the destination for the buck, then all of these obstacles will go away.
Hmm.
Because that's definitely taking money away from what the dollar is actually backed by, right? Definitely taking money out the pockets of the dollar being backed by oil, right? You take cryptocurrency, you throw it in the mix. I mean, it's a whole different ball game than what it's like you were saying with the old money. What it's traditionally been the way for people to maintain
I mean,
financial stability.
Facebook, Amazon, and Google. I mean, don't they just about own the world? And
Yes,
throw in Apple. Apple is the largest
come on.
company by market cap in America, larger than Exxon. So those FANG stocks. That's
It used to
that's
be what?
America.
What U.S. Steel used to be number one. I mean, and they're way at the bottom now. Like they're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
even. Yeah. Hmm.
Apple,
Yep.
Apple is number one.
One.
That's mind-boggling. I mean, bigger than Exxon. So these tech companies, they are America,
Yeah.
So I think this is just a fight between old money and new money,
Hmm.
and the rest of the stuff. I'm looking in the article, and Mike just put it. They thrown in illicit drugs and all these, money laundering. All of these are historical issues.
Yeah.
Okay,
A, a,
so
a, a
it's
lot of
not
that
like the
old
technology invented these issues. So now all of a sudden these things are intolerable. I mean, all of those things that's in that list, that's what we call organized crime.
well, a lot of that old
Emphasis on
money
organized.
a lot of that old money is has gone into into these new ventures. And remember, a lot of the old money that you have here in this country, as you understand how money works in this country, you see how it's played. It's part of your. They play a big role in your institutions. So that's how the old money stays old and stays around. They don't keep it in just some bank somewhere in some numbered account. It's a part of it's a part of your institutional economic framework, and they're vested in those companies as well. Rockefeller and and all the Pritzker family. I mean, the big players, that have been
Hmm.
around a long, long, long time. The old Morgans and so forth. That's what that is. It's institutional. It's institutional dollars.
Yeah.
All right, let me get to this next article. This one is from Reuters.com. 2 years ago, Nasdaq and Citigroup announced a new blockchain system they said would make payments of private securities transactions more efficient. Nasdaq chief executive Adena Friedman called it a milestone in the global financial sector. But the companies did not move forward with the project. A person familiar with it said because while it worked in testing, the cost to fully adopt it outweighed the benefits. Blockchain, the person added, is a shiny mirage, and its wide-scale adoption may still take a while. And they so washed out. In a joint statement, the company said the pilot was successful and they were happy to partner on other initiatives. Both companies are also working on other projects. Companies including banks, large retailers, and technology vendors are investing billions of dollars to find uses for blockchain, a digital ledger used by cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Just last month, Facebook Inc. Facebook Incorporated revealed plans for virtual currency and blockchain-based payment system. But a review of 33 projects involving large companies announced over the past 4 years in interviews with more than a dozen executives involved with them show the technology has yet to deliver on its promise. At least a dozen of these projects, which involve major banks, exchanges, and technology firms, have not gone beyond the testing phase, the review shows. Those that have made it past the stage, past that stage, are yet to see extensive usage. Regulatory hurdles have often slowed down implementation, some executives said. Scrutiny is likely to only increase after Facebook's plan drew global backlash from regulators and politicians. The euphoria that surrounded the early days of Wall Street interest in blockchain is given way to pragmatism, as companies realize that it will likely take years before it takes off in a substantial way. This is a transformation of the market. It isn't a big bang, said Jaffrey, head of strategic investments for UBS AG Investment Bank. It could take 3 to 7 years before major projects have significant impact, he said. One UBS backed project, a digital cash system for financial transactions called Utility Settlement Coin, is expected to be commercialized next year after more than 5 years of work, said Ramios Ram, head of head of a separate entity created for the project. But Ram said that for the system to be transformational, it will require other market processes to move to blockchain-based systems as well. There is a recognition that it is a journey rather than something with a short time frame, Ram said. Blockchain was created a decade ago as a way to keep track of Bitcoin transactions. As cryptocurrencies became more mainstream following a 2013 rally and crash in Bitcoin's price, consultants, analysts, and other proponents said their underlying technology could be transformational, especially for the financial industry. It could help trades settle instantly, accelerate international payments, and remove the need for costly intermediaries, potentially saving the industry tens of billions of dollars, they said. Investment followed last year. The capital markets and banking sectors allocated $1.7 billion on blockchain initiatives, up 70% from 2016, according to estimates by research and advisory firm Greenwich Associates. I'm not going to read this whole thing because the gist of it here is that Wall Street is lacking in human capital to actually make this work, which is why they're sitting on so many of these projects. From a business model perspective, they can draw it out on an idea paint or some kind of dry erase board, but when it comes to actual implementation, they lack the human capital and human resources to actually do so. That's why it takes so long. Gabe, you're in cybersecurity. What do you think?
Repeat the question one more time.
The idea here is Wall Street is sitting on a lot of blockchain projects, and they've been sitting on it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they have not been able to get anything off the ground from the concept phase. What do you think is holding them back?
It seems like, well, I I think that those encrypted methods or those security methods that they use for the currency, I feel like that is something that they're really trying to get a hold of. But I think it's also there. I think it's somewhat of a money grab. They're trying to get enough control of it before they really start to implement it in, I guess, a external uh, type of situation. I mean, I could be wrong. This is just from kind of an amateur's understanding of how it's currently being implemented.
Hmm.
What do you think?
I think it's just a human resource issue, human capital issue. Not enough people, not enough developers, and you know, too few people understand it. I know executives, C-level executives and above, they like to go to these conferences and these meetings and walk around with their coffee mugs and their smug face about how, oh, we're implementing blockchain and this is what we're doing. And in reality, it's all vaporware because they don't actually understand the technology themselves. All they know is what a 30-second clip in the elevator or on one of those TVs monitors in the elevator, or um, some article they read on InfoWorld or something like that, and now they think they understand it. And the reality is, a lot of these projects can't get off the ground because they lack the human resources. So.
That is exactly correct. I've seen that happen with other rollouts. I've looked at that with when they were doing the whole FINRA and Sarbanes-Oxley and all that. When they supposed to get all these, all of this stuff in place back, some years ago after the crash, and you had so many issues with just people really just a manpower issue of just getting a lot of this stuff done because you didn't have enough. You didn't have a strong enough backbone of human resources to handle it. That's exactly what's going on right now. Mike's dead on it. I've seen this before in the past in the tech game, and that's exactly what's going on right now. Exactly same thing. Don't have the people. Blockchain, not enough trained people, not enough people who understand the technology, not enough people out there to really implement this as it goes. And this is going to be a problem right now for a while.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me get to this next article. This one is from CryptoBriefing.com. Racism has no place in cryptocurrency or America, Mr. Trump. What an amazing little, what an amazing little JPEG.
Come on. Yeah, go ahead.
I wish Preem was here. Excuse me. Cryptocurrency is an industry without borders. The very nature of decentralization and anonymity should preclude your geographical location, the color of your skin, your gender, your sexuality, your age, your religion, from mattering at all. In that sense, it is one of the most powerful democratizing forces ever created by humans. So when Donald Trump explains that he is not a fan of Bitcoin, perhaps there's more to it than his concern over the usurpation of the dollar status as the de facto world currency. Perhaps it's just racist demagogue. It's the racist demagogue in him itching to prevent people who are non-white and non-male from achieving economic parity. George George Bush may have repopularized the word emboldened when referring to terrorists, but one thing the former Republican president never forgot is that there is a difference between threats such as terrorism, infectious disease, criminal gangs, and drug trafficking, and nationalism distorted into nativism, forgetting the dynamism that immigration has always brought to America. Emboldened must be exactly how Donald Trump feels today after tweeting a racist slur against the four members of the House of Representatives without naming the four women of color. Trump finally summoned up the courage to abandon his dog whistle cover and to overtly assert that his agenda is based entirely on white privilege, specifically white male privilege. Go back to where you came from. I'm an immigrant from the United Kingdom, and I have lived in the United States for almost 20 years. My partners and colleagues who work with crypto briefing are from all over the world. We have people in UK, Russia, Estonia, South Africa, France, Kenya, Bulgaria, Canada, Australia, and Italy. We are a decentralized company because we welcome and value ideas, talent, and innovation wherever we find people who embody those qualities. America has that staggering pool of talent. Planet Earth has never been more impressive. Um, if anybody else wants to finish reading this on their own, it's actually an interesting read. If nothing else, a hearty laugh.
Man, I think those type of opinions are. I mean, it's just no short of them. I mean, people just aren't balanced anymore. I mean, just there's no balance. I get it, right? I mean, Trump is a super duper the polarizing figure,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, come on, I just don't have any. Yeah, go ahead. You can move on.
What, Darlo, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, other than, what he's as advertised. You can give him, you can say this much for Trump. The way he's conducting himself is true to who he has been before he became president. He campaigned that way, and he won. So that was consent for him to continue to conduct business in this way. So what else is new?
All right. Switching gears, this one is from Yahoo News. At least 2,500 truck drivers have lost their jobs in 2019 as the transportation bloodbath unfolds. Here's the full list of bankrupt trucking companies. The truck. Let me expand this so I can't see it. The truck drivers are suffering in 2019, especially those who own or work at small businesses. Rates in the spot market, in which retailers and manufacturers buy trucking capacity as they need it rather than through a contract, sank by about 18% over year in June. That has caused truckers like Demetrius Wilburn, a Georgia-based driver, to find themselves unemployed. Wilburn bought his semi-truck 4 years ago after years of working as a company truck driver. But amid rock bottom rates, Wilburn wasn't able to make a payment 1 month, and his truck was repossessed. Damn! In 1 month? I was only 6 months away from paying it off. Wilburn told Business Insider. I'm trying to transition back into law enforcement now. Don't want to ever drive trucks again. Definitely not worth it. I wonder if this guy knows MOT. The Lexington, Kentucky base owner operator Chad Boblet told Business Insider that some truck drivers were seeing a bloodbath in just how low rates had become. Here are the trucking companies that have gone bankrupt in 2019 and how many truckers who are out of a job who are now out of a job. We use the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's company snapshot tool to measure how many truck drivers worked at each company. Startle Trucking, 28 truck drivers. Workday, Minnesota, Scott Olson, Dave Goldman. Timmy Shigley. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of companies that are out of business, but I find this to be very interesting. We should be talking about this. I was looking for MOT earlier, but he wasn't on. I have some other articles too that reflect some of these talking points I think we should open up a hangout just for him, MOT, to hear him come on the panel and actually speak to this type of stuff.
Yeah, I'd be real interested in hearing that for sure
Yeah,
on
this is outrageous.
how it's affected his own business. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's talked about it, briefly, but I'd like to hear
Hmm.
the extent of it. I mean, you had a truck driver whose truck was repossessed in 30 days because of non-payment.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's probably that guy probably was leasing or something. But yeah, MOT could clarify that. But I listened to
No,
another.
he wasn't leasing. He wasn't leasing. He was financing. Yeah, because the article said he was 6 months away from paying it off. I find that to be interesting that you would take a truck for one missed payment when it's 6 months away from being paid off. It seems very aggressive. That seems like an aggressive move.
Yeah, there's something definitely squirrely with that.
Yeah, he might have got with a aggressive
Company.
financing organization. Yeah, company.
Right.
It might.
Yeah, and again, I still don't want to, dismiss you see past the fact that journalists get things wrong too. So
Yeah, true that.
I mean that's what MOT could clarify, because 30 days that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
I don't never heard of anybody losing a car or anything off of one 30 days not paying.
A missed payment, usually it's something like, I don't know, maybe 90 days or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we might even have laws on the book that prevent you from, them taking it in 30 days. So yeah, MOT can would be good to clarify that. But yeah, I've listened to what's the brother HT Logistics. That's one of the channels I listen to among others. He has good information about he's a trucker, and he talks about the economics, of what's going on right now. And I've heard other truckers that are in, say, like, what is it, refrigerated trucking. So it's kind of different based on what sector of trucking. And,
yeah, I was going to ask, what are some of the general consensus about how people are being affected?
Yeah, I mean, from just again, MOT can clarify. But one thing I have heard, that the people right now that are in flatbed and like auto, anything dealing with autos and flatbed, at least whole cars, as opposed to separating that from parts. Okay, so it depends, because like the auto parts sector, that could be different from, say, hauling cars. So it's I listen to those truckers because they get that. It really shows you how diverse the economy is, but there are these little niche spots. And just my gray hairs was telling me that when we had this last decline, I remember that the refrigerated truckers, they didn't have as bad a time because people are going to eat.
Right.
And even
MOT, the link is in your Raining Woman. Could you send MOT the link if you have it? Oh no, she doesn't have it. I'm not in front of my computer. I can only see what's on my TV screen. But
I'll send it to him.
Yeah, we'll stop the hangout just to get him on the panel.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna mute up and I'm gonna send him the link.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have to get MOT on here because we need our subject matter expert. Get down to the bottom of this. Brothers getting their truck snatched from them in the middle of the night. You hear that diesel engine pop off. You're like, what's going on here? That auto start.
After 30 days, damn, it's like, damn, that's pretty fast.
But we had read some articles earlier this year, man, where they said repos were down to 45 days, down from 90. So, as soon as you drive off the lot, man, repo man is following you home. Like, you gonna make that payment, bro? You gonna make that payment, bro?
Well, you think whoever's employing the repo man might have had an ear to what's happening with the economy and like, oh, he ain't gonna be able to make this payment. Let me go ahead and
well, I mean, there've been a lot of defaults on car loans because that was the new scam. You had the housing bubble, and then you had the vehicles came right after. So you had a lot of loans flying back at people as well, once again, off the cars. So that's something that's been going on.
Here's our
So
SME.
maybe that's a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Something in tomorrow.
MOT, what's going on, baby?
What's going on, man? Now, for the first time ever today, the link works on the phone, but not on the computer. How about that?
Yeah, that was
Yep. All right. So for this specific issue, the reason why there's the perception that the trucking industry is hurting is because with the trade war going on, after the Chinese New Year, which is the beginning of the year, actually the container market never came back. So now you have about probably 1,500 companies who had to go from the container market into the general freight market. And that's what brought the prices of general freight down on the a la carte level. Because most of these companies have contracts signed for years in advance, especially with brokering outfits. So brokering outfits are now putting things in places taking advantage of the overage in the dry freight market. So now you got things that normally would go on a reefer truck, they're actually putting it in dry vans and just driving it over, depending on what the weather's like. So everybody is taking advantage of the dry van game. But the reefer, like the actual kind of South America to
reefer means refrigerated.
Yeah. Sorry. Refrigerated market has never changed. It's down a little bit, but it's nowhere near what it was last year. Because that's why everybody is kind of skipping the class. It's kind of the flatbed market is where the dry van market was. The dry van market is at the bottom of everything. It's the lowest of the low for trucking. So that's what you have going on here.
What types of things are in dry van? What types of things are on a dry van truck?
Everything that's general freight. Everything. I mean, because everything that's above that is considered specialized. Like refrigerated is considered specialized. Flatbed is considered specialized.
So the real canary for the economy is dry van.
Yes, and it always have been. And it's different this time around. It's because no one has really screwed with China with how much stuff they're bringing into the country until this administration. No one has really screwed with that market. I mean, we're screwing with that market on the level that the actual original Boston Tea Party screwed with the tea prices. That's what happened with the dry van market. Let me ask
you a question. Back in December, when we were debating, we were in a debate stage of whether the economy was slowing down, and I was pointing out back then there's a lag between stock prices are considered a leading indicator, but it takes a while for when we get our earnings report, that's like 3 months late. So when did you notice a difference in the rates for dry van?
No, we was already told about this earlier, because the reason why people got into the dry van market, period, is because all the auto industry shut down. You had plants shut down in Detroit, plants shut down in 3 places in Ohio, plants shut down in Pennsylvania. You had seat makers, leather makers, everybody who was connected to the auto industry from Kentucky to Mississippi to Alabama to Georgia and Florida, all the way up, was affected by the auto industry. So when you take everybody who was in that industry and dump them into a marketplace where they make 15% of what they used to make dealing with the auto industry, and everybody's fighting over prices, that brings the level of freight down for everybody. So now you got huge corporations with those $150,000 trucks who can't even barely keep them on the road because they can't compete with small truck companies like mine. They can't compete with them.
So you saying we went from a shortage of drivers, and when the economy slowed down, now we have a surplus of drivers?
No, we still have a shortage of drivers. It's just that the revenue associated with the actual product has went way down. So the problem isn't a shortage of drivers, it's a shortage of profit depending on the marketplace that you're in.
Yeah, but we've been getting some. I was looking at some articles that said the volume, freight volume, is low, and the rates are low.
No. Certain companies can't pull freight at certain prices, so they don't pull it. So if you drive a $150,000 truck, it would be incredibly stupid for you to pull anything that's below $1.75 a mile, and you have to pay this driver $1,000 to $1,500 a week. You're talking about insurance and everything else. It could be $2,000 a week before everything else is done. But if you're a smaller company, you can able to weather that. But the only thing that's hurting is incredibly large companies. It's not really hurting smaller companies unless they don't have their own contracts and they don't have good brokers.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I have a friend. He works for a recruiting firm out in Arizona, a company called TPG, and he's getting they got incredible amount. They have a lot of jobs, a lot of openings for CDL drivers, but they have to have kind of like a mechanics background as well. Kind of like a mechanics license, some kind of mechanics license. I guess you have to have, but
because they're folding those two jobs into each other. They're folding
and
actually. Yeah.
And there's a lot of they got tons of work. They're paying these guys up to $36 an hour, and they have them driving literally from Phoenix to Indiana and back. I mean, it's crazy the kind of stuff they have going on, and these are like big. These are some of them are big manufacturing companies. Some of them are other freight forwarding companies or whatever. It seems like there's a lot of business out there for drivers, and it seems like they're getting pretty good dollars. So I thought the market actually, from the kind of recs that he has, it seems like there's a lot of activity going on for CDLs, and that's exactly what I'm hearing from my good friend here in Westchester who has this firm. I have 2 people over there now working.
But there's another thing that's happening too. Like a lot of these companies who used to do all the freight now own freight forwarding companies, and they're not even doing the freight at all. They're just handing it off to smaller companies.
Yes.
So the people who are quote unquote not doing work anymore, they've just got the contracts. Right. So they're handing it off to other people. So they can't even afford to move the freight that they quote unquote book. That's why they're handing it off to small companies.
And then they're basically getting $1 per hour on that, I guess, or whatever.
Correct. $1 per mile by not even running versus having to run it, and it costs them way more.
Exactly.
So what the companies are doing is realizing that, you know what, we can't cancel your contract, but we can give you less freight overall. And start using small companies, because right now, if you look at it, there's probably about 40 or 50 different apps where you can go on the general market and get freight and move.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that FedEx and UPS both came out and said that they're hurting as well.
They are hurting.
They're hurting big time. They said that about a month or so ago. I don't know. I don't know how I don't know how Amazon. Yeah, I don't know how Amazon's cutting it. Moving these small little packages here and there. It can't be cost effective to ship some Jergens baby shampoo to somebody in some poor neighborhood. At the cost of what the product is. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
You can if you're pretty much your own United States Postal Service. You can. Or if you depend on everybody else to do your job and you make sense on the dollar, you can. And if you have enough cents per transaction that you overall win, because the overall marketplace is shifted towards you rather than smaller companies, you can. Like Amazon is based on a cost per transaction basis. They don't really care about profit. They just know that as long as they keep moving their stuff through different people, they're going to eventually win. That's how they've been able to win this thing all along. It's by moving their stuff through other people and through other companies.
Very
It also
interesting.
helps if you use a lot of non-staff, contractors
Yes.
for
Yeah,
freelancers. You
contract
don't
labor.
have to pay those
1099.
benefits and things like that, right? So
No
you
insurance, no
pay
benefits, no nothing.
so they're paying a rate per package. They're not paying, like an hourly rate. It's like, hey, you take these packages. This is your cut.
Well, I don't know. I stepped away for a minute from the mic, MOT. But what's your take on guys getting their trucks repoed after 30 days?
Is it just 30? Because I thought it was just 3 weeks. 30 is pretty long right now.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Now, are these people okay? If you have your own financing with the bank, they can take your truck in 30 days.
They can take the truck after you miss the first payment. That's the way the contract has always been written.
So when you
It's
say
just
that this is the contract with the bank, or this is your lease, is this a lease driver, or somebody who just went to the bank and set up their own financing? That's my
lease ops. Well, lease ops are different. Lease ops, the company has a quote unquote name of a bank on the contract. They have places where they work on the same truck and they use the same truck over and over again. Like you can, okay, they bought the truck for $150,000 probably 7 or 8 years ago, but they passed the truck off on 20 different people in 7 or 8 years. So they probably made $1.5 million just off drivers alone, not even counting the revenue that brings in. That's how the lease op market works. So they came out with a law where you couldn't own a quote unquote leasing outfit for your company, but that's never been really enforced by anybody. So they just have it so that way you're leasing a truck, you're going to work all the kinks out of it, and then they're just going to pass the truck off to somebody else and damage your credit, and then that person's going to get in the truck, run all their freight that they already have in-house for as long as you can and for as much money that you can make off of it, and then just pass the truck on to somebody else. I mean, it's pretty much sharecropping, but with trucks. That's what lease op is.
Wow. That's an incredible description to to make. I don't even know how you come back from something like that because it doesn't seem to be profitable. Neither for the driver and the leaser. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because how much does it cost to actually go out and repossess somebody's truck and bring it back and then do it all over again? There has to be some kind of cost impact there.
If you own the repo company, if you contract with a repo company, you pay $1,500 to go get your $70,000 or $80,000 asset back, where you're going to make the $70,000 or $80,000 per year that the truck is on the road off of the next dump sucker who gets the truck. It don't cost them anything when you look at it.
Okay.
It don't cost them anything. Like I said, it's sharecropping where you're paying for the shovels, the shoes, the laces, and how many times you put your pick into the ground. It's all calculated.
Yeah, because I saw a few videos. I don't know how accurate they are. Guys getting their vehicles repossessed and they coming out with pistols and all types of armory, to try to defend that.
Yeah, I mean it happens a lot down south. I mean, if you go there, they usually have the sheriff try to distract you or something like that while they try to get your truck. So yeah, I mean, because most of these trucks come with 2 or 3 GPSs on board of the truck, so they can locate it through satellite where the truck is actually at.
Wow.
So it's not like you're going to just get away with the truck. That's why most of the electronic logging devices was about is tracking tax revenue and actual positioning of the truck overall. So that way they can get their trucks back. Because without that, you could just park this stuff in the garage somewhere and strip the truck bare clean, and they just get to come back to a husk of a truck. I know people who've done that before too. But at the end of the day, it's not a good deal. Because those lease, no one really pays off that lease. Period. You're not going to go through, because newer trucks are made to have more problems because they keep all the tax incentives associated with the truck for the company. because let's say you buy a new truck, $150,000. You get $150,000 write-off for 2 or 3 years. So now you have $450 in tax write-offs. Plus that truck gets 9 cents a mile. So that way you're saving money on top of the tax write-offs. So of course the truck isn't made to last a long time. And by the time the truck gets into somebody's hands, those repairs are like $7,000 or $8,000 every time you do quote unquote break down. And it's like that on purpose to recycle the truck in someone else's hands. And even if you are doing so good for a specific period of time, they could just stop giving you freight because they get to control how this whole thing operates. You can be within 6 months of paying your entire lease off, and they can just tell you that, well, there ain't no freight, so we're not going to give you any. You be 6, 7 payments behind. They know you ain't got no money, and you end up giving the truck back to them anyway. Like I said, it's still sharecropping. Well, 40 acres with a truck.
Question.
Yeah,
a new driver, a young driver, somebody, just starting, they out there and they're just starting. With the economy slowing down, doesn't it make being a company driver more attractive, at least for the period that this economy is unraveling?
Well, unless you can go buy a truck in cash that is pre-emission where everybody can work on it anywhere. That's the only way you can make money in this market as a smaller company. Yeah, along with having your own private contracts, which I do have.
Yeah, I was talking to someone, it was maybe about 6 months ago. They're in this space, and I was telling them, go talk to somebody more experienced. But I was like, just off the top, why take on that risk of buying all that hardware? You don't have the 2 years experience yet. Stack money, just stack money, and then when a couple years from now, when the economy's bottom, you'll have money and you won't have no debt. And the economy will be in a better, maybe the economy will be at a minimum going sideways instead of going, not going down anymore. And that might be a better time to take on that risk. I mean, that whole thing of the business cycle is real, and you have to time those kinds of purchases with the business cycle. If when you go against that cycle, it's rough.
And stop buying all those damn scratch tickets, man. Every truck driver I know, man, sitting at a rest stop, scratching off $1,000 in scratch tickets. What you doing, man?
I guess I gotta stop myself. All right, you got it. You got it.
No, MOT one of those guys. He's not gonna play it unless he playing the Powerball. If it's 499 million, that's not enough money.
Yeah,
got to be 500.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's mathematically simple. These newer trucks who are 10 years plus or more, if you have a post-emission truck, plan on spending 10 grand or more a year at a time to where it's not advantageous to you each year to keep that truck on the road, period. This is why I tell people to have $10,000, $15,000 in the bank after they buy the truck, because people need to know how it feels to have that type of money in the bank and not touch it. Because a lot of people don't understand the ins and the outs of what happens. Because let's say your truck goes down, now you got to go rent a truck. Now you're making $1,000 to $1,500 or less if you have a Penske or Ryder account on top of what you wasn't making. So now you're going through the same thing over and over and over again. So if you don't get into it with an advantageous mindset, you're not going to be able to win. If you're not able to stack your money, you're not going to win as well. This is why I tell people to make sure that you own and have your stuff for a year, so that way you have $50,000-$60,000 in the bank before you go buy something. People are like, man, everything's going well, that I can just get 3 trucks. I'm like, in one repair can shut down your entire operation, period, can close your doors. And people don't look at it like that, because they look at it like the more money, they look at the trucking game like it's selling crack or something like that. Like, it is that's not the way that you look at the business operation. You have to understand the consistency of being able to run, because most people can make that type of money per week, and then they don't run as hard and as often, and then they be in a revenue neutral or a revenue negative situation by dating the wrong type of person, and then now they're adding an additional cost onto all their business costs. And they went out and bought them a BMW because they want to impress a parking lot rather than themselves. And now you got that thing going on. So it's like, people don't understand that if you get your self-esteem caught up in everything but business, you're going to fail for that exact reason.
Now, does this include
Keep your overhead low and your savings high?
Yeah.
Now, when you say that, when we refer to the truck, does that include the trailer that goes with it, or is the trailer separate from all of this?
No, I mean, trailers don't go bad or down. They're pretty much stationary objects that just hold things. But the truck, everything's going to go wrong on the truck. You know, you need to make sure that you get the repairs. I mean, you know, it's pretty much a rolling train crash victim. That's what a truck is. Everything is going to go wrong.
No, I meant when you go out and lease a truck, right? That doesn't include the flatbed, right? So that or the trailer itself, right? That's separate, right?
Yeah, I mean, trailers don't go bad or go down. If anything, they just need new tires, or if somebody punches a hole in them. But the amount of things that go wrong on the truck dwarfs the things that go wrong on the trailer. Nothing's going to go wrong on the trailer. It's just the whole stuff. I mean, the truck is made to do all the work. So, like, a lot of companies charge you an astronomical amount for a trailer. This is why you should lease or even buy your own trailer whenever you're going into these type of transactions. This is why I strongly suggest people own both the truck and the trailer, so that way you don't end up like Pittsburgh Rider. It's $400 a month to rent a trailer, plus 20 cents a mile. Okay, if you multiply 20 cents a mile times, let's just use 3,000 miles a week. It's 24,000. So you're talking about renting a trailer for, I don't know, $1,300 a month, where you can go buy an older trailer for like $7,000 and you completely pay it off.
Mm-hmm. You know what, MOT? You know what, MOT? Why don't we do this? I don't know if you're going to be around tomorrow. Let's do a Brain Trust hangout on your channel, and let's chop up game about some trucking news.
Yeah,
financial aspects of it. I got some articles that I haven't loaded up because I've been waiting to get up with you. But yeah, let's do that on your channel tomorrow if you're available. Just hit me up.
All right, cool, man. I'm sorry for derailing the conversation on this.
No, you didn't derail it. No, you were right on. No, you didn't derail it. You were right on point.
Oh, no, okay. Not at all.
No, we don't want to rush it. You know, this stuff, like, you got stuff that has got to give it more attention than what we got here, because it's important stuff.
And there's a lot of moving parts to it that people just think, oh, I just jump in the truck and drive. I'm like, yeah, that's when everything goes right. There's a thousand things that goes on behind the scenes that you don't get to see before you jump in and just turn the truck on, that you have to take into consideration.
What would some of that be?
Dude, I mean, you know, you got to have your maintenance right. You got to make sure that you got your permits right. You got to make sure that everything's right. But I mean, because every single state you go to, there's different rules for all states.
Right.
And most people don't even keep that in mind because they're just used to turning on the truck and drive until you get your own outfit and you get pulled over, and all of a sudden you win a $1,300 fine because you didn't know that you couldn't do that.
Yeah, so that's costly mistake.
I think in Massachusetts you can't have those spiked lug nuts on your rig. Over that.
They're waiting on you. Oh, they're waiting on you. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's it. It's just that what people need to understand is they need to have the most sleekest, most inconspicuous vehicle out there, the cleanest that you possibly can make it from the outside, and you won't have a problem. Especially for a person who used to be a cop. I know what they look for. This is why I don't have those problems. But most people want the shiniest, the most chromed out, the most, I'm not going to say the word, but unified version of a truck that you could possibly put on the road. And that is the exact reason why you don't get pulled over and messed with. So,
you say your truck can't be tricked out. You can't have a tricked out truck cruising.
Oh, no. They're going to be going through truck with a fine tooth comb and an actual pet roller.
Although I have seen guys coming through with the strobe lights on the bottom, for whatever reason, man.
Yeah. If one of those lights out, they will put you out of service for one of those lights being out. No matter how many lights you have on your truck. This is why you don't load your truck up with 1,000 damn lights. Because if one of them is out, they can put you out of service, period.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, let me get to this next article.
Okay.
All right, this one is from CNBC.com. Business groups slam House for passing $15 minimum wage bill. The House of Representatives' decision to pass a bill raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour received almost immediate criticism from major business organizations. The group says the bill, which the Democrat-controlled chamber passed in a 231 to 199 vote, would be expensive and lead to increased unemployment. The House dealt a devastating blow to small businesses today, risking record growth, job creation, and already increasing wages. Juanita Duggan, president and CEO of the National Federation of Independent Businesses, said in a statement, the NFIB is the leading advocacy organization for small businesses. A representative for the restaurant industry also criticized the bill. Thousands of restaurant industry employees, leaders, and community members have called and emailed Congress to share their concerns about how H.R. 582 would cripple small and family-owned businesses. National Restaurant Association spokesperson Sean Kennedy said in a statement, H.R. 582 is the wrong wage at the wrong time, implemented in the wrong way. Kennedy called instead a common sense approach to minimum wage. The National Retail Federation likewise emphasized the bill's potential consequences. This unprecedented proposal to increase minimum wage by 107% is a one-size-fits-all approach that would lead to unintended consequences for American workers and the businesses that employ them. David French, Senior Vice President of Government Relations at the NRF, said. The National Association of Manufacturers also expressed its opposition to minimum wage increase in a letter to the House before the vote. H.R. 582 creates new economic headwinds for manufacturers, ignoring the sector's investments in skills training, competitive compensation, and generous benefits, all at the expense of millions of American workers. Patrick Hedren, the association's vice president for labor, legal, and regulatory policy, said. The NFIB's Duggan encouraged the Senate to kill the bill. Indeed, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is unlikely to bring up legislation in his chamber. The White House pledged that President Donald Trump would veto it if it made it to his desk. Mitch McConnell is the same guy who doesn't think that reparations is necessary for ADOS. Keep that in mind. Increasing the minimum wage to $15 has been a major topic of discussion in the 2020 presidential race, with many Democratic candidates backing the proposal and will likely remain prominent in the campaign, even if the Senate declines to take up the bill as expected. The Congressional Budget Office estimated raising the minimum wage to $15 from its current level of 7.25 would cause 1.3 million jobs, while increasing wages for 17 million workers. Minimum wage increases generally have the greatest impact on workers in low-wage industries. Impacted workers include those in restaurants, bars, hotels, frontline retail, like cashiers, and many in healthcare, according to Heidi Sherloss, senior economist and director of policy at the Economic Policy Institute. Sherloss is also former chief economist for the Department of Labor. Workers in small-scale manufacturing and daycare are also impacted, said David Newmark, an economist at the University of California, Irvine. But a national increase to $15 would likely affect a much wider swath of workers, especially in low-wage regions, according to Newmark. If we really go to $15, the effects will be broader than what we've seen in the past. Newmark said, in the South, half of the workforce could potentially be affected in a much wider range of industries. He said. So this is the state minimum wage laws currently. For whatever reason, the map isn't showing. Massachusetts is $12. Didn't know that. Schedule increases to $15. Rhode Island is $10.50. New York is $11.10. $11.10. Let me see. Mississippi, no schedule increases because people in Mississippi don't get paid minimum wage anyways. They don't get paid anything. There's still a lot of sharecropping going on down there.
And Mississippi's like a third world country, bro. Just crazy.
Send all comments to Mike V and the Gone 11.
Yeah, I'm not even about to go there with Mississippi. What's going on, brothers?
What's going on, Dr. Phoenix? What's going on, baby?
Not much.
Let me see. Illinois is $8.25 and scheduled to increase to $15.
It better. That's the only way you go survive in Chicago.
I notice all the red states don't have too many changes coming their ways. No schedule increases. Then again, those are places that have massive levels of poverty in their states.
Yeah, the red states are basically being covered by the blue states. That's really, I've studied that. That's what's going on. We're paying for them. And those states tend to be Republican run. Most people don't know that as well. Just wanted to let
Wisconsin is $7.25. No schedule increases.
I can believe that, given that I'm here in Wisconsin. I can believe that. Yeah, I'll speak on that one.
Oh yeah, go ahead. We're gonna start moving forward, anyways.
I mean, pay disparity here in Wisconsin has always been a major issue. You know, given most, and I had a conversation with the brother Complex Design about this a few weeks back. Him and I had a private hangout conversation, just talking about just some of the massive disparities in general you see with Black people in Wisconsin. And typically what you find is that most Black folks here in Wisconsin, that's pretty much true of any area you go to where you have a Black population, where most Black folks tend to work in these low-skilled, low-wage jobs. So here in Wisconsin, a brother I was working with, he's an economist at my alma mater, and he was doing a project looking at the number of Black women who were CNAs specifically, and you had somewhere upwards, of about 60% of Black women here in Wisconsin, specifically in the Milwaukee area, who were CNAs, and the pay is fairly abysmal. I mean, unless you go to the VA or something like that, where I knew a young lady when I was in nursing school who she worked at the VA as a CNA, and she was actually making about $20 an hour, but she had been there for quite a few years. But as a whole, you know, these are very low paid jobs. In fact, I remember when I was doing my externship, I did a critical care externship, and I was actually getting paid a lot more than that. So, and this was just me working like 20 hours a week, and I was getting paid.
You're right. CNA's here in New York, $12 an hour.
Yeah. I don't even think they
Arizona, $10 an hour out in Arizona, where my friend is.
If I remember correctly, here in Wisconsin, I think if you're a CNA, you might start at about 8, and they actually have something that's actually a little below it. I forget what they call it, but you have to be in a nursing home for this, and they were paying. I forget what the hell they called it, but yeah, I mean the pay is abysmally low, and Wisconsin specifically is a place where you're seeing, you're seeing a lot of private capital that's being infused into the state and into the cities of Madison and Milwaukee, because you just have, yeah, again, Milwaukee is the place for the DNC National Convention next summer. And I know for a fact that been at least $1 billion worth of credit that has just been extended to the city of Milwaukee, and outside, and not even including just some of the private capital that's just being infused into the state. If you're dealing in areas of the cannabis business, a lot of venture capital come in to fund a lot of startups, and the biopharmaceutical sector, biomedical sector, the tech sector. Yeah, my alma mater, they just rebuilt their business school, and they completely renamed it to a school of entrepreneurship and business, because they actually have an alumni funded venture capital project that they're working with students who are in the tech field, computer science and stuff like that, business, who are interested in doing startups. Pretty much every major university here in the state have some startup funded venture capital system of some kind that's being funded by alumni and private investors of some kind to fund it. So I mean, again, and and when you consider like things like automation, there's just going to be a continual downward trend of just hourly workers in the state. I mean, again, we had Scott Walker for governor for 8 years, and he practically destroyed the unions here. So I mean, I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me get to this next article. All right, this one is from Yahoo Finance. PepsiCo takes Africa foothold with $1.8 billion pioneer deal. Can't even see this. PepsiCo agreed to buy South Africa's Pioneer Foods Group Limited for 24.4 billion rand, $1.8 billion, according to local brands such as Wheat Bix breakfast cereal and Cerise fruit juice, to ignite a push across the continent. The deal gives the U.S. drinks giant a hub from which to expand more aggressively in sub-Saharan Africa, said Eugene Wilmerson, who is moving to Cape Town from PepsiCo's New York headquarters to oversee the region. This transaction is all about growth. We are looking to expand our footprint, he said by phone on Friday. PepsiCo offered 110 Rand a share for Pioneer, a premium of about 56% over the last closing price, before the deal speculation began in earnest on Monday. The companies said in separate statements. Zeder Investments, Pioneer's biggest shareholder with a 27% stake, will vote in favor of the deal alongside with investors holding more than half of the food maker's stock. Pioneer shares soared 30% to 101.3 Rand as of 11:28 a.m. in Johannesburg, while Zeder jumped by 23% to a 7-month high. Fellow South African food producer Tiger Brands gained as much as 6.5%, the most since November before falling back. Bloomberg News reported the deal on Thursday. So we see that there's a lot of growth happening in Africa, and PepsiCo is not, not there for fun. This is about future growth, and that's they see sub-Saharan Africa as a high growth market in the coming years, and they would be foolish to ignore it from a business perspective. Anybody have any comments on Pepsi
Yeah.
going into Africa?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we look at this, people interested in business, they see the opportunity, they go to Africa. Meanwhile, ADOS folk, we sit around and debate. I'm like, dude, I only been to Africa once in my life, and that was in 1994. Even then, everybody in the world was in Africa in 1994 except us. This is a non-debatable point. So, Pepsi Cola is in the sugar water and snack business. And they said, okay, well, I guess they would like sugar water and snacks in Africa. It's just what you do, And so we got to get with the program.
Yeah, I definitely will be making my investments next year. So, all right, this one is from CNN.com. Dollar stores are everywhere. That's a problem for poor Americans. Dollar stores, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Dollar Will. As dollar,
It's briefly.
as dollar stores sweep across America, they are facing growing scrutiny from opponents who argue that discount chains stifle local competition and limit poor communities to access to healthy food. Dollar stores have never been more popular, yet a wave of cities and towns have passed laws curbing the expansion of Dollar General, Dollar Tree, which brought Family Dollar in 2015. The companies are the two largest dollar store operators in the country, combining for more than 30,000 stores throughout the United States, up from 20,000 a decade ago. By comparison, Walmart, America's largest retailer, has 4,700 stores. Advocates of tighter controls on dollar stores say the big chains intentionally cluster multiple stores in low-income areas. That strategy discouraged supermarkets from opening, and it threatens existing mom-and-pop grocers, critics say. The business model for these stores is built on saturation, said Julia McCarthy, senior policy associate at the nonprofit Center for Science in the Public Interest and a critic of dollar stores. When you have so many dollar stores in one neighborhood, there is no incentive for a full service grocery store to come in. Opponents have also expressed concerns that dollar stores don't offer fresh produce. Dollar General and its dollar store rivals mostly sell snacks, drinks, canned foods, and vegetables, household supplies, and personal care products at rock bottom prices. However, Dollar General and Dollar Tree argue that they benefit communities by offering shoppers convenient places to grab food and essentials at low prices.
I'm just really chomping. I'm waiting for you to finish, man. Just go ahead, man.
In rural places without existing grocery stores, having a Dollar General might be viewed as an asset, said Christopher Merritt, director of the Illinois Institute for Rural Affairs at Western Illinois University. Dollar stores bring in new sales and property tax revenue for cities, create jobs, and expand shopping options for customers. He added, dollar stores see an opportunity to grow in even more. even more in America. Dollar General and Dollar Tree have plans to open a combined additional 24,000 locations. But lawmakers around the country are pushing back. Last week, the city council in Birmingham, Alabama, unanimously approved legislation that would prohibit dollar stores from opening within the mile of their existing location. Oh, he's the mayor, Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin. Looks like he can be a part of the Black Brain Trust anytime. Man, always good to see a black man in a leadership position. While dollar stores proliferated across the community, health food options dried up. Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin told CNN Business the new measure will help Birmingham attract and retain grocers in city's food deserts, he said. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Mesquite, Texas have also passed legislation limiting new dollar store openings. And officials in New Orleans, Cleveland, and Fort Worth, Texas are exploring plans to restrict dollar stores in their cities. I'm not going to read this whole thing because I'm so sick of the term dollar. This makes me want to punch a baby. We have been talking about stores closing, retail chains closing up shop because due to the economy, but now you're telling me that all of these dollar stores are popping up and people don't see the actual benefit to them.
Yeah, it's like there's just so much manipulation in what we get as news. It's like in these poor, yes, correct. They don't have. The article said that they're keeping grocery stores out, and then the article went on and said that the dollar store doesn't sell vegetables. Well, that's why you go to a grocery store, and in most areas where you have a dollar store, it's a poor area, and transportation is a big issue, and you can't get to. I mean, you have to put this in the context of what Walmart did first. Let's just start right there. So Walmart already decimated a lot of stuff before we saw dollar stores and all the various dollar, stores pop up. So a lot of those grocery stores got run out before this. We saw all these dollar stores pop up. If people weren't buying, the junk, the stuff that they're buying, the junk food or the non-healthy food that they're getting at the dollar store, people going to eat. They're going to buy that anyway. They're going to be at the carry out. If it wasn't the dollar store, before the dollar store, they were in the carry out, or they were at the gas station buying stuff at the gas station carry out. So this move against and I'm not a fan of the dollar store. Okay, I got some smoke for them too. But this argument reeks of some Walmart or some big grocery stores attacking the dollar store and painting them as leading to like poor diets because of what they sell.
It's funny. I'm here in my neighborhood. I just want to say this. In my neighborhood here, it's you've got a lot of upscale people around, and we got a dollar store just a mile down the road, and that place is packed. I go in there and pick up my some of my soap and toothpaste and stuff. I go there. I think Doll was right. If you're gonna go to get vegetables and this kind of stuff, you have to go to a grocery store. And I think the dollar stores are not supposed to be a grocery store and all that. It's a dollar store to pick up, toiletries, and other small knickknacks, doodads here and there, washcloths and soap and that kind of stuff,
and some household and some home items.
Yeah.
And Target maybe,
and then some home items. So I could see that putting pressure on, let's say, a Walmart in some areas or a Target or some spots, which I think needs to be challenged. And if you have stuff you can buy at a very cut rate price, why not? I see very intelligent people are always looking for fairly, decent deals. So that's just kind of how it goes. But I think when you start getting into the whole diet piece and everything else like that, you have to go to the grocery store. The dollar. What are you going to do? Dollar cabbage or whatever? I don't know. I don't know how.
Yeah, it's like my thing is let's not use the dollar store presence of the dollar store as an excuse not to bring a grocery store. So it's like the subtext of this argument is we can't put a grocery store there because the dollar store is wrecking the profits. So that's why we can't have a grocery store there. Well, you had all this time to not create the food desert and put a grocery store there.
Yeah,
so they don't care about putting a grocery store there. They're trying to protect the profit, the money they're losing by selling the non-grocery. By the fact that
I have to agree with that
store, let me just get it out. The fact that the dollar store is selling non-grocery items, that's what the fight is about. They're lying, keep creating this crap about.
I mean, I have to agree with that argument. I think it's pretty accurate. That is masking another issue where they could have gotten other food, other food producers and so forth to come in and open up other types of stores and markets to really open up for definitely for grocery if you really want to get into it. If you want
now, here's my smoke for the dollar.
Just let me finish. You're definitely right about that, dollar Will. There's no question about it. I definitely see where that is and I see some politics involved in this as well. But in the overall sense, I think it's pretty accurate. So we've got to look into this a little bit deeper than what I think these guys are trying to say here.
Where we are being exploited in the dollar store is math. The dollar store has these off sizes, and if you don't go in there with a calculator and calculate price per ounce and compare it to price per ounce at Walmart or some other place, you are actually losing money. You're paying a higher price per ounce on many items in the dollar store. Now, there are deals there, but you have to be conscious of what those deals are. So we generally speaking, we have the least educated and the least capitalized, if you want to put it that way, the poorest in terms of wealth and education and health. Those are the people that are near a lot of these dollar stores. And the dollar store has they're exploiting them. So you have a lot in terms of the way they price things, and you have a large number of people on federal, state, and federal assistance or state assistance. So that money is being taken right by the dollar store in the way that they price things. Now that's my smoke about the dollar store.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Oh no, nothing. I was actually just reading. I think it was D.E. Rappers talking about the first dollar store that he remembers was off of Nassau Street, off of Wall Street. So here was the first dollar store down in the Wall Street area. So I've seen a lot of dollar stores, even in Larchmont and some other pretty wealthy upscale neighborhoods here in Westchester County, which Westchester County one of the more wealthier counties here in the country. So you see them around there, around fairly wealthy areas as well. So I have to really look at this a little bit closer, but I have to believe if you're really talking about vegetables and everything else like that, which do not come into a lot of minority areas, you can't put that on the dollar store's head. You have to look at you have to look at some other things that are going on, and that needs to be addressed. And people have tried to address that, and we've seen slow movement on that as well. So, I think this is a little bit different. So I'm going to have to agree with Donald Will on this for sure.
All right, let me get to this next article. Actually, I wanted to bring up a point that Dollar Will made about the dollar store as being more expensive. Take into consideration where Walmarts are. At least in Boston, we don't have a Walmart, and that's by design. If you had to factor in the cost it would take to drive to a Walmart to get the equivalent or cheaper price than what you would get at a dollar store, you actually be losing out, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If I can add, in Chicago, Chicago didn't have any Walmarts for exactly
Yes.
the same reason that Boston didn't have any Walmart. And specifically about a little over a decade ago, they tried to bring a Walmart into the city of Chicago, but at that time it was still Mayor Daley who was in charge in Chicago, and they wanted to do something called a big box ordinance, and basically it was the Walmart would have had to come in and pay an actual fair living wage at the time, and they refused to do so, and
Yep.
so that's what stopped Walmart from coming into the city. Eventually, I did think they did approve one, but for the most part, going to what you said, most Walmarts are typically either outside of the city limits or they kind of like out in the middle of nowhere. I remember when I was in the military, we had a Walmart that was right outside the installation I was stationed at, and it was a super Walmart, but it's like right out literally in the middle of nowhere. You have this massive Walmart because obviously, they get the tax breaks and all that stuff, and because these municipalities really fund the building of these Walmarts. So
Hmm.
So we need some brothers with some creative solutions, like some of these food trucks that we have. And, if they could also sell some fresh vegetables, that way they can drive right into the hood, or because we have a transportation issue as we getting around. That's creating the opportunity for dollar store and Walmart to both play these pricing games.
You know,
Most urban areas already have farmer markets.
yeah, they do. They have them here where I'm at as well. Again, they're in the black areas in the where I'm at. They've been doing this for the last few years, where they've been having farmer markets, obviously, to combat the WalMarts, because it's been long known that Walmart typically sells lower quality produce and food in general. Compared to some of your regular grocery chains, the Krogers and stuff like that. And so, I mean, you've had a rise in farmers markets in various metropolitan areas where they've been trying to combat, just the accessibility of healthy foods to, low income areas. So, I
it,
mean, that's
that is
something.
true. That's really true, Dr. Phoenix. We've had that in certain areas of the Bronx and so forth that they were talking about in other parts of the city where people who were in more upscale neighborhoods were, definitely had access to fruit and vegetables and so forth. Whereas in other areas, some of the black areas, you had maybe a Popeye's chicken on one corner, a McDonald's on another, and a Kentucky Fried, but you didn't have any literally where you could buy fresh produce. You didn't have it, so they were trucking a lot of that in and having days where they would come in and produce trucks would come in and you would buy literally stuff damn near. They would set up a they would they would set up a market outside, and it would literally that's how that had to come into the community. So they had to really start to push that, and now you have some of these farmer markets and others. Primarily, a lot of them are run by Asians who are bringing them in, and you have fresh produce that are coming into the black community in particular. But yeah, I had a real problem with that in the city. Real issue with that. So that's why the whole dollar store. The dollar store. I don't know about people getting ripped off because you get a lot of pretty decent stuff for a dollar and a little bit or maybe a little bit more in the dollar store, especially from a standpoint of just certain kind of household goods and stuff
Yeah,
like
take
that.
your calculator. Take your
So,
calculator.
I think there have been some decent deals, but I think the biggest thing I think we're really concerned about is trying to match this up with bringing produce on over. I mean, it's just those two are just they're not the same. The whole produce thing is a whole different issue, and I think our communities are more targeted for these fast food places than where healthy food is.
Yeah,
It's also
I would
about
kind of agree
convenience. It's also about convenience. I mean, if you live right across the street from a Dollar Tree or Dollar General, I mean, do you really think you're gonna get in the car and go to Walmart just to find a more comparative price? I don't know, man. That seems like a misery.
Yeah,
A bit of a stretch. Like a bit of a
they're
stretch.
not going to do that. So that's not going to happen. They ain't doing it.
Go ahead,
I
Dogwall.
mean, I mean,
Go ahead,
again,
Dr. Phoenix.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, again, even just considering what you just said, I mean, the thing to take into account is that typically, in black areas, that's typically what you will find. You're not going to find it. You might have a grocery store that might, for most people, might be within 4 or 5 miles. Comparatively, if you went to an upscale neighborhood or whiter, non-black neighborhood, you'll find multiple, grocery stores or within a few blocks of each other, compared to most black areas where you will only find, it might be a Walmart or even a Dollar Tree or something like that, within a few miles. So I mean, people would have to travel a considerable distance. At least, black folks will have to travel a considerable distance just to find something comparable.
Now, Dollar Will, do you
Facts.
have a Walmart?
Facts.
Last time you were in DC, do you know if there's a Walmart within the city of the district of
Yeah.
Columbia?
They broke that. I mean, how you guys describe Walmart as generally being on the outskirts, that's generally true. You're right. But I think in downtown DC off of North Capitol, there's a I understand there's a Walmart there. So they're starting to move closer in a little bit, but generally, yeah, they're on the outskirts. But this thing happened in stages. I mean, we go back 15 years ago, the whole talk was about Walmart driving a whole lot of grocery stores out of business, and so we can't. When they put those articles up about the dollar stores, they don't go back to the larger context of what caused those stores to leave in the first place. It's just kind of disingenuous and not tell the whole story.
I would agree with that. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the articles about 15, 20 years ago was about Walmart putting these small mom and pop businesses out of business. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
And I'll say for my DMV listeners, I lived all over. I lived in Southeast, grew up in Southeast. I lived in Hyattsville, Silver Spring, Bowie. I mean, I lived off 16th Street, like near Malcolm X. I guess what would that be? The park. I can't think of that park. At W Street. I can't think. Meridian Hill Park, all that. Now, though they had grocery stores in those areas, but the daggone prices were so high. Now, I was making good money, so I could get in my car and drive to Maryland. So even when they have vegetables, the daggone prices, it's robbery because the rent is high in certain areas. So the food in the grocery store is going to be high. So it's real. So you still come back down to a transportation issue. Transportation affecting food and dietary choices.
I would agree with that. Again, that goes back to some of the research I do with some of the with the local health department here in my city, and addressing exactly that issue with the transportation issues and the fact that black residents on average have to travel a considerable distance just to get to a grocery store, and just the number of issues that cause. And so the brother Nagon 11 was talking about it earlier, where you have a Popeyes or McDonald's or whatever, one of these fast food spots that are just on the corner. They're pretty accessible, and so it contributes to a lot of the health and food disparities you see present in black areas. So yeah, I agree.
And obesity issues and so forth. Yeah.
And I'll say we have a cultural thing also which contributes to it, where as we don't know our neighbors, we're not necessarily neighborly, especially in the cities. We will have a car and we're headed to the grocery store. We're not necessarily mindful of like who else might need to go but can't. So there's opportunity there for people to come up with some kind of creative kind of co-op.
Yeah, you could do some type of ride sharing.
That's a very good point as well.
Yeah, some type of ride sharing, carpooling type of thing. I certainly think that would help to address some of the transportation issues you see, especially
Certainly.
this is a big problem for older people. This is very
So,
common in elderly people where they have transportation issues. So many elderly people don't even eat. Many of them are malnourished, and so they have a lot of health issues as a result of that. And again, I agree with both what both Nagone and brother Dollar Will said.
Yeah. Now, here's what I don't know. I'd like to get some information about it. I know the Walmart has the delivery service, and I don't know if it's cost prohibitive. I've never gotten the chance to speak to anyone about how that experience was worked for them. For people who are let's say immobile, that sounds like a good solution if it's affordable, because that would solve the problem. So you have maybe you combine a Walmart hooking up with an Uber or something, and then they can bring your food to you. Because I mean, Walmart has a delivery service now, but like I said, I don't know anybody that's ever used it.
Yeah, a couple of spots have it. Amazon does it to an extent. There's a few places that do it that I do know of where they do, it's kind of like the Meal on Wheels type of thing, that they have for senior citizens and stuff like that. They do have sort of these online shopping thing, but I mean this is typically for more folks who got the money to afford. These things can be really pricey. So if you're just dealing with your rank and file um black person per se, they might not necessarily have the income to support such a thing. So I mean, we're facing the issue going back to the minimum wage article that a few articles are back, that Mike was talking about. I mean, we're seeing a culmination of issues here that kind of leads to just the very reasons that we're talking about, sort of dollar store and Walmart, and just sort of this competition between these two.
I've seen some black people using Uber Eats to order cookies and Lay's potato chips, man, and
Really?
really makes you wonder. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
think yeah. Let me get to this next article. This is the last one on the docket. Investing.com. Oil prices push higher after Iran seizes tanker. So this happened today. Oil prices have moved higher Friday on reports that Iran had seized a British flag oil tanker in the Straits of Hormuz. The August contract, West Texas Intermediate crude briefly crossed above $56 a barrel before falling back by the settlement in New York. WTI settled at $55.63 a barrel, up 33 cents. Brent crude, the global benchmark, settled up 54 cents to $62.46 a barrel in London after hitting a high of $63.32. It was not clear why the Iranians seized the tanker. The state-run media said it was for violations of international regulations, but the move injected more uncertainty into global oil markets already struggling for direction in the face of near constant Middle East tensions and fears of global supply gluts. Despite the reports from the Straits of Hormuz, which connects the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean, oil prices fell more than 7% on the week, their worst performance in 7 weeks. The tanker seizure is just one more element in the tension front relationship between the Trump administration and the authorities in Tehran. According, uh, almost any almost any event can result in swift policy changes. New York-based Energy Intelligence said in its Petroleum Intelligence Weekly. Phases of escalation followed by renewed peacemaking efforts would appear a likely pattern. Both Washington and Tehran had indicated in recent weeks that despite the grandstanding and hostilities aimed at each other the past year, they want to resolve their more than year-long standoff. In a Thursday news conference at the Iranian mission to the United Nations, Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif suggested that President Donald Trump's sanctions on Tehran's oil and leaders to leaders be removed so that the two sides could talk. Analysts believe that Zarif's call will almost certainly be rejected by the Trump administration. For there to be talks, there should be no preconditions, Washington says. And in between all of these, a U.S. warship in the Strait of Hormuz reportedly destroyed an Iranian surveillance drone on Thursday. But Tehran quickly denied losing any of its surveillance planes to Washington. While it's unlikely that Trump would agree to set aside all the sanctions he built against Iran's oil and its leaders in order to bring Tehran to the negotiating table, it's possible that he could meet Iran's demands halfway. Trump could suspend his most objectionable sanctions against the Islamic Republic for a specific period, say 3 months, to give the peace process a chance. Investing.com projections are that the price of WTI and Brent oil will fall about $5 a barrel within a week or two of the announcement that the two sides are ready to talk. And every rebound thereafter will be checked by the possibility of an impending Iran nuclear accord 2.0. I don't know. Let me see what gas prices are right now. Let me see what they're doing in Boston.
I'm looking at the performance of the market since June. I was just looking at the chart, and it kind of speaks to that article. It shows the winners and losers. It has the 5 losers, all energy companies or something related to it. You know, even like Carnival Cruise Lines, Norwegian Cruise, and Cabot Oil and Gas. So it's higher energy prices.
Let me see. Sharing my screen with the rest of you all. And on Gas Buddy, it's showing that it's for basic regular unleaded, you're seeing at least $2.53 a gallon. All the way up to $2.85 a gallon. This is up to 4 hours ago. So we're seeing this sharp variation, you know, almost 30 cents difference per gallon. Let me see what it looks like in New York. Let's see. Interesting, it's much cheaper in New York, but again, we're never going to see gas down to 99 cents a gallon. It's not going to happen anytime in our lifetime. Any of you gentlemen have anything to say about oil prices and gas?
I guess I'm more concerned about, you've seen this movement in the auto industry now for the past few years where, everyone's buying SUVs or some derivation of it. And, arguably, gas prices won't be as low as they are now. And obviously we're not going to see, dollar something gas prices like I was seeing back when I was a teenager. But yeah, so I'll be more concerned over, what happens over time. But I was reading this article earlier today on my popped up on my Google feed, so I thought it was kind of interesting that you would talk about this. Because, yeah, I mean, I don't have nothing more to add to it other than I'm just kind of curious what happens over time, especially since you've seen all the auto industry put so much effort over the last few years into producing more SUVs. I mean, was it Ford got rid of pretty much all of their sedans? Chevrolet is moving in the same direction. Well, GM as a whole. Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, you see even from the German marks. So, yeah, I'll be curious what happens over time.
We need to be mindful about the lows in oil. I think it was back in 2015 or 16, something like that. That's the story. I mean, it is the bottom in, the bottom in oil uh, price per barrel was around $25. That was the low. When at whatever point we reach the low, at whatever price that is, people are buying the gas guzzlers. That's good. Okay, fine. Oil, by the barrel at least it's trending down. But at some point, it's going to find a bottom, and when it does, that's when terror is going to set in when it finds that bottom, because we're going to go after that high, that all-time high. We're going to go back we're going to chase that. And when we get in that chase mode, and start, breaking technical resistance and going higher and higher, that's when people are going to care again about alternative energy and solar. You don't even hear people talking about solar, because the thing we've noticed long ago that people don't care. As long as oil is cheap, they don't care. They only care when it's really trending, very much higher than this. When it gets up into that, $100, $90, $100, that's when people are going to want to have solar and have hybrids and all this. They're going to be really conscious of the impact of the price of oil. But when price is low, we don't think about it. And the bad part is when we do get around to thinking about it or seeing it as a problem, that's the point when the demand for all of those energy alternatives is so great that you're going to pay a premium for it, a huge premium.
So. I mean, I would agree with that. I think part of the problem is that, the use of solar energy has not really changed, because one is an efficiency problem. Converting solar energy into electrical energy is, at least in its current status, is relatively inefficient. You lose a lot of energy in the conversion process. And so, there's been very little motivation to find ways of converting solar energy into electrical energy, for example, that are more efficient than current methods use. And I would agree with what Will said. People are not going to really start to complain until we see those $90, $100, a barrel prices for oil that we were seeing over a decade ago. I'll never forget it because I was in Chicago, and at that time, Chicago had some of the highest gasoline prices in the country, and I mean it was like what $7 or something like that, and people coming in there with their big Tahoes filling up and stuff like that. And,
yeah, my father has solar, and he's getting $5 bill, $5 electric bills and things like that. However, he's paying a big bill to pay for the solar panels. So that's the issue. So you're going to have cheap energy, but you got like $25,000 worth of solar panels on your roof. Maybe you got a $15,000 credit when they had those rebate programs. So, okay, I think he walked away something like financing like 12 to 15,000, somewhere in there, after all of the rebates and everything. But that's the killer, because you're still stuck with that bill.
It's funny you bring that up, because it actually reminds me back when Obama was president and he had invested in he had championed this one solar company that I think they went belly up, during the second term, I think, if I remember correctly, and everybody just kind of blew up in his face. I can't remember the name of the company, but yeah, they went belly up. But I agree. I think
is it Solar City, which Elon Musk buy it?
It might have been. I can't remember.
No, it wasn't Solar City. It was
I can't remember
the name
of
on the tip of my tongue right now, and I just somebody in the chat must know it.
Yeah.
so. I forget. Oh man, what is it? I'm forgetting the
Somebody
name of
put
the
up
company.
Solyndra, the brother Isaac of Olympus.
Solyndra, yeah, that's right. That's
Solyndra.
exactly what it was. That's right. That's exactly what it was. That's right. That's right.
But what was your point, Dr. Phoenix? I
No,
interrupted.
no. I was just saying, I agree with you. Solar panels are very expensive to produce. Yeah, it will certainly lower your overall energy cost. But I mean, just the cost of, creating, manufacturing them and installing them is very expensive. So.
And not to mention the fact that the energy company, the price they sell you energy at is not the price they buy it from you when you sell it back to them from your solar panels. Back to the Dollar General thing. You just can't win, man. People just can't win. We
Well,
need government to protect us. Says liberal Democrat.
yeah, I think in general, when you just consider power cost in general, I mean, I think one of the things we were talking about, people, you know, production of aluminum. Aluminum is used in just about everything, and aluminum is a very expensive process to separate it from its ore and extract it from its ore, I should say. Very expensive. So I mean, it's when we consider just the energy cost for that alone, and I mean just in general, just trying to find alternative ways to fund the power needs of America in the 21st century. Because I mean, we already know oil is a finite resource and eventually is going to run out. But the energy companies and the conglomerates, they've just kind of held up sort of progress in these alternative methods of energy.
And then there's the problem with the battery, because with not having a battery storage system, because when you have solar, you are buying your power from the grid during the night because there's no sun out. So the sun is powering you during the day, but at night you're buying your power from the grid. But with the battery technology, you will be buying less of it from the grid overnight, or possibly none of it. If you have enough batteries, enough panels, you can work out a formula to not have to do that. But so yeah, so it's a mess. So all that to say, back to the oil, nobody cares about the alternatives as long as the price of oil is falling, and the proof is what you guys mentioned, that we'll go and buy these inefficient cars because nobody cares until it's painful. Mike, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I put my headset down. Did you pull up any charts or anything like that before we close out?
Oh, okay. I didn't know where we were in the setup. Let me pull up something. I just want to give me a minute. Talk about something else. Give me a second. Give me a 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Talk some sports.
How about them Cowboys?
Absolutely.
I did want to bring up something because this goes into what I'll be doing over the next couple of weeks. I'll be going to some conferences, and I'll be traveling and going to conferences. But I did want to talk about some major areas of opportunity in the healthcare sector. Obviously not tonight, but maybe in a more formally structured hangout where I can talk about just some of the major shakeups that you're seeing happening, specifically with shortages of physicians and nurses and stuff like that. I was having this conversation earlier with some folks, and so yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for brothers out here. But yeah, I do want to talk about that at a later time.
All right. we'll possibly have a Black Tech hangout tomorrow. We'll definitely have an open chat tomorrow. Definitely have an open chat tomorrow. Should be open chat number 11.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to be there because I'll be at a conference tomorrow, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to participate in that.
It's cool. I don't know if depending on if the heat wave is that massive, I probably won't be able to host it. But
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's something. It's not something that has to happen now, but something we can talk about. We can discuss at a later date or something like that. Because I do think it needs to be talked about because, like I said, there's a lot of areas of opportunity for brothers if they're really looking to get into the healthcare field and so yeah. I'll be willing, I would like to talk about that, but also offer some guidance and some mentorship if brothers were interested.
Let's see. I got nothing real deep. Just to check up on where we are in this. We're flirting we're at a technical level and at the S&P, and so it's like, are we going higher? How much higher do we got to go? Looking at a chart of this is various industries, okay, and measured from January 1 year to date. So that would be a year to the day, right? 1 year to the day. And so the relative strength, 80 is overbought. That's where you're topped out. No industry is overbought. So, as bearish as I am, technically, stocks can run. They can run a little, they can go more. So we'll see what happens with regard to that. Now, since June, we've had what I got here. It's June 3rd to now, 34 days. We've had a couple of energy companies just been tanking, biting it. Western Digital, what's that? That's a tech company. What is Micron? Oh, that's a tech company. That's a semiconductor, right, Mike? Allergen.
Micron does memory chips. Western Digital does storage. So your chips that go inside iPhones and iPads and stuff like that, Micron chips.
So they've been rolling, man, 40%. That's since the 1st of June. June 3rd to now. Allergen. There's you go, Doc. Wind Resorts. KLA 10 core. Is that a semi? I think that is. So there you go. So there's room to run, and as bearish as I am, the charts don't really support it. Don't support the fear that I feel because I can't look at the charts and say, hey, that hell is here right now. But we will become over bought at some point, and how far we fall when we have a natural pullback. I mean, a certain pullback is natural, after a run up to being overbought. How far we fall, that will determine if the trend is in danger. If we violate a technical support or a trend line. So, but right now, there's no sense even talking about it because we're not overbought. So we'll see what happens. But you can still see that it's like the market is like kind of running sideways. It's not really. It's like nobody really trusts that this market wants to go higher. We had last week we had the high put call ratio. Let me check that for the day while we talking. Let me take a look at it. Bring it back. Let me show you so you guys can know how to look for it yourself. So basically, I just come to bar charts. You click on the S&P. Click on bar charts. Go to S&P 500. Of course, Paul's right. You can go to the Chicago board. of trade, and you can get their data, Chicago Board of Options, and you can get their information. And you come down and you select options prices, and you come down here and you can see that the put call ratio is still pretty high. So that's for the volume. Anything above, say, from 0.7 to 1, from 0.7 to 1.0, that would be considered kind of a normal and no real alarm. But this thing is 2.61 times. So it's 2.61. The ratio is 2.61 in favor of puts. So it's like 2.61 more bets against the market than for it. Okay, and then you have these are the contracts that people are holding still. So this volume is trades, and this could be trades in and out today. And this contract just closed today, but this one is long position. I mean, let me see. I don't want to say the word long. These are contracts that have not closed out. So you have positions that are calls, which are bets that the market's going to rise, and you have puts, which are bets that the market's going to fall, and those positions are still on the books, and the ratio is in favor of the puts. So the number of put contracts outnumber the call contracts at a ratio 3.37 times. So that's pretty negative. However, the technicals show that the stocks are not overbought. So nobody wants to believe that this market can go higher, but it can. So we'll see what happens. That's why it's just kind of trudging along. But we're gonna get an answer soon, maybe in a couple of weeks. But right now, we don't even have one industry that's overbought, not one. So this is a unloved market. That's all I got.
All right. Please hit the like button if you have not already done so. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. Docket and description beneath the video for you to refer back to. And we are going to go over to MOT and Man of Tomorrow's channel and join in on his live stream right now.
Peace. See y'all over at MOT's.